Wake up call. Good morning. You're on the air.
Grief.
Hey.
I got a new phone, and I thought it said 815.
We were just talking about phones too, getting adjusted to phones and everything. So.
Well, I had a BlackBerry since 2002. 2002.
Wow.
And I finally, because they just kept crashing and everything, I finally had to go to an iPhone.
Hey, you and President Obama agree with something, right? BlackBerry, right?
Come on.
Come on.
I said I switched.
You left that too.
I know, but it took a while.
Well, he was copying me. I bet I had a BlackBerry before he did. But anyway.
Hey, Tim, give us a lowdown. We were, matter of fact, just talking about this big hour-long rambling press conference yesterday, and two things with what the president said. Does he have the authority to do what he did yesterday, and is it really going to make a difference?
Well, I think that if he wants to change in the law, and I believe, obviously, the law would be repealed, but I think if he wants to change the law, he needs to come to Congress. But that aside, look, this was a politically driven move, and he needed to do something politically because President Clinton made his remark and all the pressure started building up. He had to take some kind of action. It matters less politically what action he took, and it mattered more that he just do something. You can't save this law. It's not fixable. People say, "Oh, why aren't you working with the other side to try to fix it?" That's like saying, "Hey, I want to race my 1975 Pinto in a NASCAR race," and I say, "Well, I would not invest one penny in that because it'll never win." And you go, "No, why are you criticizing? Why don't you help me fix it?" There are some ideas that just are never going to work, and this is one of them. And you may say, "Well, hey, what about pre-existing conditions? What about these people who are on the edges who are benefiting?" You can do all of that without Obamacare, without taking over 1/6 of the U.S. economy. In fact, the Republican alternatives all deal with pre-existing conditions through high-risk pools, allow people to pool within their organization and buy insurance collectively, competition across state lines. There's all kinds of things we can do separate and apart from Obamacare. What the Democrats want you to believe is that it's a binary choice. It's a choice of two worlds. Go back to where things were or have Obamacare. That's what they want you to believe. Because then they think, well, you'll say, well, I guess I'll have Obamacare. But what they don't want you to know is there's a myriad of choices, not two choices. There's 10, 20, 30, 100, 1,000 different ways of reforming the healthcare system. And yes, we absolutely need it. But the idea that someone was in a room discussing healthcare reform and someone said, "Hey, why don't we give control over our healthcare system to a federal bureaucracy?" That's a great idea. And people say, "Yeah, that's a great idea. They've done such a great job managing the rest of government." And that's just ludicrous to me.
Well,
yes, we need reform, but it needs to be reform that allows people to make choices and be more responsible for their own individual decisions. Right. It doesn't compromise our quality.
Well, something that John Boehner said yesterday after the whole comments from the president, he used the words, I think he said, this needs to be scrapped, which you told us before and made it very clear that as long as there's someone named Obama in office, that's not going to happen. I mean, and I guess that's still the case. I mean, so where are the Republicans at? I mean,
people are starting to see now that the way you get change is the people have to drive it. And what a lot of people would say is, "Hey, we need to get rid of Obamacare," and I would say, "Look, that right now there's not the political numbers in Washington to do that. I've certainly voted. The House has voted, but the Senate's not going to vote, and the President's not going to sign it." But here's what we're seeing: when there is public outcry for something, that's when you get the change you want. So when 20% or 30% or 40% of the country want it scrapped, it ain't going to get scrapped. But when you have, I certainly voted to do it, but there's a lot of people that won't vote to do it, particularly Democrats in the Senate. But when you start getting intense pressure, 50, 60, 70% of Americans saying, "Hey, you got to do something," that's when extraordinary change can occur. And you saw that yesterday. When you got Democrats criticizing their own president, the president of their own party, and worried about the consequences of what's going on, that's when you get real change. Because here's the way that works. When the Democrats contact the White House and their leaders in the House and Senate, and they say, "Hey, the president doesn't make a fix ASAP, we're all going down with him." And that's when you start to see change occur. And that's why you saw the quick action yesterday. I mean, look, you had Bill Clinton come out and go, "Well, I do think you ought to keep his word."
But Congressman Griffin, you talked about the public outcry, but where did that start? I think some would say that started with Ted Cruz and what he did back with the partial government shutdown. Wouldn't that be correct?
No. Look, the people that back Ted Cruz have been against the law since the beginning. You don't win in politics by just getting your 30% base excited. You have to get more than 50%. That's called winning.
Yeah, but I'm saying that's where it started. I mean, I think that's where the momentum, and if everybody got together at that time...
No, completely wrong. What the 3 weeks of the shutdown did is completely divert from all of the bad things that were happening with Obamacare. The only reason we're talking about Obamacare now is because we got past the ridiculous shutdown. Trust me, this is not... I could sit down and show you all kinds of numbers and data, and this is not even disputable. There is no one credible in Washington running around saying that this has anything to do with the shutdown. This is Obamacare. This is Obamacare. The reason people are mad, it's not because Ted Cruz got them excited. Most Americans don't pay attention to Ted Cruz. The reason they're mad is they got a letter in the mail that said your insurance is canceled. That's why I was mad. Not because Ted Cruz gave a speech on the floor of the Senate when half of America was sleeping. I mean, that's not why. Look, Ted Cruz, I've been through this before. I know Ted Cruz. The shutdown was a disaster. Absolute, unmitigated disaster. And anybody that thinks that was a good political or whatever move is just not in touch with reality. And I'd be happy to sit down and walk you through the numbers. But let me tell you, the only reason we're not talking about the shutdown now is because we got past it, and Obamacare is allowed to shine. Mm-hmm. And that's what you're seeing, man. This is a disastrous law. And, this is the other deal. People don't get mad about Obamacare because a politician gives a speech. People get mad about Obamacare because it negatively impacts their lives. Their co-pays are going up. Their premiums are going up. They picked of their own will a plan, and they're told, you can't have that plan anymore. It's complete chaos. And here's why it'll never work. Top down. This is a one-size-fits-all. Washington, D.C. and the federal government is going to tell you which plan you can have, what must be in the plan. You're going to pay more for a different plan because Washington knows best in the president's view. That's why this is tanking. That's why this is tanking. And let me tell you, we need health care reform. Absolutely, positively. But the idea that it has to look anything like this 1975 Pinto that we bought is just wrong. There are all sorts of wonderful, positive, helpful, patient-centered ideas that you can see online. You can go to our website or be happy to discuss them sometime. And I'm writing an op-ed right now for one of the local papers that sort of lays out all the other options. But no, trust me, it ain't Ted Cruz.
So Tim, there's a measure in the House that you guys are looking at. There's also a similar one in the Senate. Where are we at on those as far as keep their plan?
Well, we're going to pass ours today. Ours is different than the Senate one, but basically ours says that that insurance companies can let you keep. They can let you keep your insurance plan that you were on that you're getting kicked off of now. Obviously, that's not going anywhere. The president's already, it's going to pass the House, of course. The president's already said that he's going to veto it. So, in any event, but here's the deal. The way change will occur on this, one thing and one thing only. You've got to get, the American people's got to be so upset that it's not just the Republican base, not just the 40%, the 30%, 35, 40% that have wanted it. When people start seeing independents and Democrats start seeing what a disaster this is, like they have this week, that's when you get change. Because Democrats in Democrat states and Democrat districts, they know that the Republican constituents disagree with them. That doesn't bother them. What bothers them when that 35, 40% starts getting independents and Democrats and becomes 50%, 60%. Because then they start thinking, okay, now I can lose. Yep. That's the way the whole cookie crumbles. And the reason that's happening is because of what you're seeing.
But what's the change? Is that just putting a Band-Aid with more legislation? I mean, that's the fear, isn't it? Like Mary Landrieu was talking about from Louisiana, just more legislation to this law?
Well, anything short of repealing it is legislation to change it, obviously. But what you have is, and again, ours is going to be vetoed, what you have is a lot of Americans saying, hey, I'm losing my insurance. Help. And we crafted this deal that said, well, we've already tried to delay it for a year, right, which the president delayed the employer part, but not the individual part. So what we said with this is, well, let's delay these minimum standards for a year so that insurance companies won't kick people off. Give them an extra year. But the president doesn't like that idea either. I just think this law is unfixable. That's a word. You cannot fix this law because it is fundamentally flawed at the core. It's like sometimes you got a soup on the stove, and you taste it, and you think, that needs a little salt. You add a little salt, add a little pepper, add a little bit of this, add a little bit of that. You can get it right. There are some soups you've so botched that the only way to do it is take it and pour it down the sink. And that's what you got here. It's not that people aren't for fixing it. It's unfixable.
No amount of salt or
Sometimes you have
pepper is
a-
going to fix
sometimes-
that. Yeah.
Sometimes you have a wreck in your car, and you look at the car and you go, we can fix that. And other times you look at it and you go, any attempt to fix this is a waste of time. That's what we got here, folks.
Hey, by the way, I had a 1973 Pinto, and I thought it was fine for me as long as I didn't get rear-ended. I was fine.
Well, I said 75 then.
Oh, okay.
For after the fix. Okay.
Okay.
No, but look, it was fine for 35 years ago. At least in your mind, it was fine. and you probably thought you were cool too. But truth is not the issue here.
Tim,
Anyway,
great.
I mean, so it was in your mind. You were the cool cat in the 75 Pinto. But look. You can love your 75 Pinto. You can be emotionally tied to it. You can have spent a lot of time and effort in it. But that doesn't mean you ought to run it in a NASCAR race.
Oh, wow. Well, Tim, listen, we're about out of time. I really appreciate you taking the time to join us this morning, and great talking to you.
Thanks.
Well, I apologize for my tardiness.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
No problem.
I don't feel tardy.
Have a great weekend, man. Great talking to you. Congressman Tim Griffin there joining us this morning on the Wake Up Call studio line, 7:30.